Welcome to today's episode of Woo News TV. Today, we're going to talk about intuition, which Forbes magazine says is the highest form of intelligence. I'm going to teach you what it is, how it works, and why you should use it all the time. Today with me is Kaylin Harding. Kaylin is interested in learning about intuition. She has some idea about it. I'm sure she's used it more than she realized, which we're going to find out. But I'm going to teach her more about all those things I mentioned. And through teaching her, I will hopefully be giving you, audience, as well, some information. So follow along with the prompts I give to her. Feel free to do them yourself, and we will see what happens. So this will be like an intro to intuition. How about that? An intro to intuition.
Yes, I need it. I have a little bit of an intro, but I'm excited to dive into it because you and I have talked about it a little bit, but then we're like, no, save it for the show, save it for the show. So I have some questions. I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay, first question I have for you, Kaylin,
Yeah.
and for the audience as well to answer yourself is this. Do you believe you have an intuition?
I mean, I think the easy answer is yes, but also until really you and I started talking about intuition, I was never like aware of it. I mean, I think intuition can be as simple as like your gut feeling,
Absolutely.
which everyone talks about spiritual, not spiritual. Everyone knows what a gut feeling is, and just becoming aware that gut feeling is my intuition and tuning in with that and being like, okay, what do I like feel, rather than just kind of letting it happen and being like, oh, I think I might be feeling this, but then also my brain, but my heart, but all that.
Excellent. Exactly
You know
what
what
we're
I
going to
mean?
talk about today.
Yeah.
I swear we did not plan that, everybody. This is all very impromptu here. So everybody has intuition. I'm going to pause for everyone to think about that a second. Everyone has intuition. For some, it comes more naturally. For others, it's a skill you can hone. It's like working out. The more you exercise the muscle, the more it works for you. With intuition, the more you use it, the more loudly and clearly it works for you. And your level of intuition is directly related to your level of fear. So the more fear you have, the less you're going to be able to hear your intuition. The more fear you have about yourself, about life, also the less you'll be able to hear your intuition. The more you trust it and yourself, the more loudly and clearly it will come through for you. So some years ago, I created this talk on teaching businesses how to use their intuition. And in my research, I found out that some years ago, the U.S. Navy was spending millions of dollars to try to figure out how they could teach the military how to use their intuition, because they were getting repeated reports from people in Iraq and Afghanistan that they would have a sense of knowing before coming upon an IED or an attack. I don't know what the results of that is, but I know that they were spending money trying to figure out how they could teach that and teach the military how to use it for life-saving and for action. Also, there's a quote from Psychology Today that I want to read, the magazine Psychology Today. It says, studies have found that when it comes to making major life decisions, such as which person to marry or which house to buy, big decisions, right?
Yeah.
Trusting your intuition leads to better outcomes than trusting your logical thinking brain.
Totally.
So what intuition is, it's that inner voice. It's God's voice. It's your inner wisdom. It's your highest self speaking through you. Some say it comes through your pineal gland, which I happen to agree. It's that truth. It is the information. It's your inner compass. It's the information that guides you to action, to no action, tells you what is true and what is true for you at any given time. It's also aligned with your value system, not the value system of others, which we tend to lean towards with obligation, that kind of thing, but your value system. So if you're trying to make a decision about something, and there's a bit of a disconnect there, it might be because you're trying to follow someone else's value system and not your own, but we'll get to that.
That's so interesting to think about, because when you think of intuition, you think of like, is this the right or the wrong thing to do? But it's neither or. It's literally just what is your destiny? What is best for your higher self? Like, do you know what I mean? It's not like, okay, is this the right or the wrong? It's just like, no, it's what I want and need to do. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. So there are actually, first of all, Kaylin, I want to ask you this. Tell me, share with all of us, please, an experience you've had when you have felt your intuition and you followed that information. You have something you can share with that?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like I kind of mentioned, like your whole life, you're feeling intuition. You just may not recognize it as that. But just since getting to know you and getting to know intuition and recognizing it within myself, one specific story that I think I've told you before is I recently started a new business venture. I'm trying to find clients, blah, blah, blah. And I had one client that on paper was great. It, would have been a great client to have, but I just felt something not right about it. And I was trying to
Mhm.
talk to my parents about it. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, they have all these things I want in a client, but I just don't feel good about it. And I literally remember being like, oh my God, this is it. It's happening. Like, this is my intuition. And like literally from the moment that I recognized it as that, that was it. Like, I was like, and I have not had one moment of like, oh, like maybe I should have, like, no, absolutely not. Like the moment
How
I
did
like
you
recognized
recognize
that.
that? How did you recognize that? Sorry to interrupt you.
No, no,
Was it
no.
a feeling? Was it, how did you recognize that?
I mean, I think I recognize it as just like, when you're sometimes just like, I have a bad feeling about this.
Mhm.
That's all it
That
is.
knowing that it was a bad feeling.
Yeah. And
Okay.
maybe not being able to explain why it's a good or a bad feeling, but you just feel just something a little off about it. And
Okay.
then where normally I would be like, I think I'm gonna go with no on this one because I don't know, I just have bad feeling. I was able to be like, no, my intuition is telling me no, and I feel strong about that. So no, respectfully, but no.
Yes, yes. Well, and sometimes you don't always know why your intuition is giving you the information
Yeah.
it's giving. So, okay, let me ask you this. Have you ever, I want to ask everybody this because I think we can all relate to this scenario. Have you ever gone shopping and you bought something, either clothes or a gadget that just didn't feel right? Maybe maybe the outfit, the shirt looked really good on you, but you just didn't have a great feeling about it, but the price was good, the color was good, so you bought it anyway. And
Hmm.
it's still sitting in your closet and you never
Yeah.
wore
Well,
it. Or maybe you
I
wore it
even
once.
yes, no, I relate to that because I mean, this gets into body image and a whole other thing. But there are things that you're like, yeah, that's on trend. Like yeah, like, and you may not feel the best in it, but you're like, nope, this is what everyone's wearing. And then you buy it, you spend the $45 and I literally have not worn it. So that specific thing happens to me all the time.
It
And I'm
happens to me
looking in the
too.
mirror and I'm looking in the mirror in it and I'm thinking like, okay, like I don't really like it, like looks like okay, but you're not gonna like
It's not your, it's just not connected to you. It's
yeah,
just not your thing.
it's not like something that's like meant for your body, but you're just like, I'm gonna get it anyways because everyone's wearing it. It's in trend right now.
Okay, so now let's talk about decision making. Intuition can help
Yeah.
you make all your decisions. You can use it deliberately, and I'll share a method about that soon. Or it
Yeah.
can also happen automatically, which I think happens for more people than you realize. It's that gut feeling, like you mentioned,
Yeah.
that
Yep.
gut instinct. So we're gonna get in our head a little bit while I
Okay.
explain a little bit of context for this, but then we're gonna get out of our head and put everything I said aside, and then we're gonna feel how it works. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. We receive information from three different areas when we're trying to make a decision or at any given moment: emotion, intellect, and intuition. Now we're going to get heady here, but I just want to explain the difference. Okay. Your emotion. So think about a decision you're trying to make. I mean, like a relationships, emotions come through big time in relationships, right? Emotions tell us what we want or what we don't want. And it typically comes in any kind of relationship with a significant other, family, friends, coworkers. Emotion often answers those questions.
Yeah.
Intellect is what you should or you shouldn't do, what you think you should or shouldn't do. Sometimes it's based on your value system, sometimes it's based on others. It deals with meeting your needs, like getting your needs met.
Yes.
You're you're intellectualizing the decision because there's a need there.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you get met. You don't want to lose the job. You don't want to lose the money. You want to
Exactly.
make sure
Yeah.
you have all your needs met and the needs of your family. So that plays
Yep.
a big role. And all of this is important information, but it might not always be your intuition. Your intuition, it is what's right for you, what's true for you. Sometimes your intuition can validate what your emotion or your intellect is telling you. It can be the same thing. But you want to be able to recognize the information from your intuition.
That's what I was going to ask you about. Because I feel like at least when I think of intuition, it kind of goes hand in hand almost with your heart and like what, in
Ding,
your
ding,
soul, you
ding.
feel right. So like, how do you because they feel so closely connected when I think about it, but then also I suppose there is a difference because it makes sense that there would be, but it's also so easy to be like, no, but it's the heart wants what it wants, whether it be about something small, what outfit you're going to buy or what job you're going to take. You know what I mean?
Well, let's talk about this because I'm sure some people watching this can relate to this. Think about that relationship that you've had in the past, or maybe you're in it now and you deep down, you just know it's not right. You just have that knowing. but yet you keep ignoring that because you really are crazy about this person and you want it to work out so bad.
Oh, you're
And that's
speaking
okay.
to my heart. You are speaking to my
I think we can all relate to that multiple times, but that's okay if you stay in it as long as you want to stay in it. But you just have that knowing, the inkling deep down there that keeps popping up sometimes. It's just not right, just not right. And then down the road, the relationship ends and you recognize, yeah, my intuition was really telling me all along. Now, it's okay to stay. There's no right or wrong on what decision you make, right? Following your emotion isn't wrong. Following your intellect isn't wrong. Following your intuition isn't wrong. But you're going to like the results of your intuition every time. So maybe you wanted to stay in that relationship because there were lessons you needed to learn and you just wanted to still be in it. That's okay. So there's no judgment on following your emotion, right? This is life. We're all having a human experience. So I don't want to say that, you know, emotion is better than anything. It's just, you will like the outcome when you follow your intuition. And especially now, like, for example, in the information age we live in, right? We have so much access to news, you know, social media, the internet, to conversations constantly. And there's a barrage of information and there's, you know, 8 sides to every story these days. And, you know, you never know what is accurate, what's not, what the agenda is behind it. And you want to know information and you want to know what's going on, but you don't even know where to put your own assessment of things anymore. Truly, if you follow your intuition, it will tell you. It will, if something rings true to you, then it's your truth and that's all you need to know. Well, okay, so let me talk a little bit more about how to recognize how each feels. Okay, so when you're dealing, when you're in your emotion is speaking to you, and that's the information you're getting on whatever decision you're trying to make or whatever's happening in front of you. Because what you want is a bias, right? It's what you want. It's an emotional attachment. It's a bias. So there's going to be a fear of not getting what you want. So you might have more of an adrenaline response. It could be really subtle. But when you're thinking about that decision, let's take this in the context of making a deliberate decision. You have a decision to make and you're taking a moment to figure out what to do. So in this case, if it's your emotion, you might feel a little anxious. You might feel the energy going into your head. Your breathing might get a little shorter. Your body might get tense. You're going to have that kind of physical reaction. Our information comes to us physically most of the time, at the very least physically, sometimes in other ways too. If it's your intellect, because you're thinking, it's you're processing, right? So you might feel more energy and tension in your head or your neck or your shoulders. You might have a little bit of revved up energy because you want to make sure you don't, there's some fear involved of losing. There's something to lose, right? Need being met, income, things like that. So you want to make sure there's pressure to make sure you make the right decision. Even if you do all the math and you're doing all that stuff, you still have that. And all those sensations, they're fleeting. No, sorry, take that back. They linger. All of that information lingers. If you're thinking about an emotional decision and you're in your emotion, that heaviness in your head or that little bit of anxiety is going to stick around. When it's your intuition, it's going to be a quick flash. It's a fleeting sensation. And you're going to feel it when one of 3 places at the very least, if not more. You're going to feel it in your heart, in your solar plexus, your abdominal area, or an all over body sensation. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Your heart, your solar plexus, or all over body sensation. So if you're asking your intuition a question, what should I do should I do this? Should I go to the store? This is a random silly question, but just to make a point.
You know, it's so funny that you say that because as we're sitting here, I'm trying to think about just some like small decisions I'm trying to make right now. And it's so small, but I'm trying to decide whether to do an online order or to go to the store. And just now a little Target thing popped up on my phone that said, your car is calling. And I was like, oh, I have to decide, am I going to go to the store? Or am I going to do the online order? Anyway, so
well, we can address that. Let me get through these things and then we'll do that. Okay.
Like, see, that's my current.
It can help you make decisions in the most inane or the most important. So if the answer is yes, if your intuition is saying yes or take action, you're going to feel a lightness, a warmth, a movement, a calm feeling in your chest or your solar plexus, maybe even all over, but definitely your chest or your solar plexus. And again, these are instantaneous feelings. If it's a no, you're going to feel a constriction, a pressure. It's going to feel tight. It's going to feel a little uncomfortable. These are not long-term physical sensations. That's something you might need a doctor for, but these are fleeting sensations in your chest or your solar plexus or all over. Have you ever walked into a room and felt like sensation of ick around you?
Yes. Yes,
that's an
absolutely.
example of your intuition telling you, okay, something isn't really, something's going on over there you don't really want to be a part of, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's how your information will come through as your intuition. It's a quick, fleeting feeling as a yes or a no.
So is it not as much something where like, okay, so you have that quickly fleeting feeling and say you ignore or you kind of skip by it and you go back to thinking emotionally, intellectually, and you just drag on the decision, whatever it is you're trying to make.
That's a good question.
Does it just happen that one time? That may sound silly, but like, does it just happen that one time you have to think back to it? Or is it something you can sit on and be like, do you know what I'm saying?
Okay, that's a good question. So you can ask your intuition the information, you can get the answer, and then your emotion might come flooding back because it might be, oh, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to end this relationship, even though I know something tells me that's not truly aligned. You just want to be able to put your emotion and your intellect aside long enough to be able to feel that flash of intuition. And it will come back every time you think about that decision, you'll feel it again.
Okay.
You'll feel it again, but you got it once. And the more you do this, the more you'll recognize what it feels like.
Yeah.
Because well, on a side note, psychic information, if you want to call it that, intuition, psychic ability is heightened intuition. Some people
Okay, I was actually going to ask about that because they sound very hand in hand, but then how can you read others' intuition? Because I guess if you think about it, to an extent, psychics, like that's all kind of a heightened level of like, can you train that? Like, and how does it work as far as other people's intuition goes?
So what I want to say, my take on this is psychic ability is something you're born with, is an advanced thing that some people have, some people don't, but everybody has intuition. We can get information 4 different ways. You can get it through vision. Some people get sights. They can see things in their mind's eye. You can hear things. So it's clairaudient, clairvoyant, clairsentient. You feel things. Some people are feelers. Or you just have that knowing. That claircognizance, just that knowing, the knowing you typically feel here. Those are ways your intuition speaks to you, but they always give you physical signals in your body. Even a knowing is you're going to feel it somewhere, even if it's just boom, you're going to feel it somewhere in your body. The knowing, the hearing, the feeling, or the seeing. And sometimes you might have the ability, you might get information in all 4 ways.
You know, it's so funny because I don't know if you in therapy, at least my therapist that I use, she is very big on, as you're talking about a situation, saying, what do you feel in your body right now? Where do you feel that at? And then after you've maybe talked through something, saying, where do you feel that? And that's testing, like, that's kind of a way of making you be in your body for a second and being like, oh crap, I really do feel a tightness in my gut as I'm talking about this. Like, what does that mean? And every time my therapist says it, I'm like, you got me again. Like, oh yeah, like it just, because it's always there.
Right.
Talking about certain things that you're passionate about or not passionate about,
You're just not aware of what's going on in there.
Yeah. And that is intuition. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my therapist has been teaching me intuition for years.
Okay, so let's apply this to what you just said, the decision you're trying to make about go to the store or go, what was it? Go online or go to the store?
Yeah. So just place an online order and go in, or drive up and pick it up, or just go and be not lazy and get out of my car and go into the grocery store.
Okay, so being not lazy would be a judgment, I'm just going to say this for now. Is that your value system, or is that the value system you think others have for you? Okay, so let's put that aside for a second.
Okay, but interesting, noted.
Yes, note that. So think about the decision you're trying to make. Okay, just think about it for a second. Now, form it in a yes or no question. Should I go to the store? Yes or no? It's the first thing you felt.
Okay, I actually think yes, because
don't think we're feeling. Now we're feeling. Okay. First thing that comes to you. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. What did that feel like, and where did you feel it?
It felt like a quick, just like, why would you do the online order? Like, you have a bunch of stuff
that's why. Okay. So the why would you do the online? That's here. That's your intellect talking. That's a should, right? It's what you should do. Because why wouldn't you? Okay. So all that. Take a deep breath. And maybe either way, this decision really doesn't matter, but we still want to practice it.
I know. I'm like,
Okay. So now let's ask again. Take a deep breath. Should I place an online order?
Yes.
Okay. What did that feel like?
It felt like, honestly, like a little in my chest, just like, yes,
Like, okay, I can feel what you're feeling.
yeah,
And I felt that too. It just felt like,
yeah,
yeah, yes, just,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yep, that's what I'm gonna do. Okay.
Okay. So do
Decision
you see how
making.
this can work? You can apply this to
Yeah,
anything.
but that
The
is so interesting how you when I would answer, but then go blah, 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 and ramble
hmm,
about maybe why or why not.
right. If
That's
you're
not
explaining
that's
your
not
answer, it's not your intuition.
yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
oh, so true.
That's
Yeah.
information I never thought of right now. I'm glad you brought that up. So if you're explaining your answer,
Yeah.
it's not your intuition.
Oh my gosh.
And if you
Because
don't
you
know,
because you almost you can't explain your intuition,
no,
at
it's
least
just
in my
there.
experience.
You can't always. Sometimes you can, but
Yeah.
you can't always.
Yeah.
So if you don't know, if you're trying to make a decision and you have a little time, if it's not something that has to be decided that moment. If you don't know, I tell people do nothing. Wait until you know for sure, because a no can typically be either I don't either it's not right for me and I just don't want to hear that yet, or some things need to line up a little bit and then you'll get a clearer answer.
Mhm.
So if you don't know, do nothing if you can possibly do that. Excuse me. The definition of intuition is the ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. That's why these sensations are fleeting.
That's to understand. Wait, what did you say? The
To understand something immediately without the need
immediately.
for conscious reasoning.
That is
Albert
so, oh
Einstein
my
talks about
gosh.
intuition. A lot
Yeah.
of people talk about intuition.
It's so interesting because I mean, I've always prided myself on how like knowing when someone's going to turn out to be not necessarily a bad person, but just like one of those like, oh, I knew that all along, whether it's watching it from the outside or inside. And you literally can like at least in my experience, one of my best friends, she loved her, she was amazing, they were best friends. And I would just say like, oh, she just doesn't seem genuine to me, but it was just a
Mhm.
gut feeling like I
Right.
never was like, oh, she does this or it was just I couldn't explain it. It was just like, I don't know. I just
And you
don't
don't always
feel
need to know.
no. And fast forward 4 years and I now live with my best friend and she's all because she whatever. It doesn't matter. But we now joke about like, remember, like you knew, and I was like, I did know, and I literally did not know why I could not come up with one single
Mhm.
reason, intelligent or emotional, of why not. You know, not that it was my life, but you know, but
Well, Kaylin, to everyone, is a social media manager. She's an absolute whiz, by the way. And
thank you.
post you posted on my Instagram on intuition, someone asked a question. She said, how do you know? She referred to a book that I talk about all the time, The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked, how did you see that comment?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. And she asked, how do you know that? How can you tell the difference between when it's your intuition or your fear? Now, if anybody's read that book, it's a great book. He talks about how fear is your intuition alerting you to danger. He's a security expert, international security expert. And he talks about about all the dangers we truly have in the world. And it can be pretty
Yeah.
scary as he describes it. And he knows that, and that's his point. But his other
Yeah.
point is you have a built-in tool that can save you, that can literally save your life.
Yeah.
So what I tell her is, in these cases, in the context of his book, for example, your intuition is that danger alert, that quick danger alert. And your
Mm-hmm.
fear might follow it because your adrenaline kicks in, your anxiety kicks in, of course,
Yeah.
when you're in a fearful situation. But that intuition is that quick alert, danger, danger, danger.
Yeah.
And in the future, you'll know if you're trying to make a decision and you're afraid. It's a very nerve-wracking, serious, important decision. If it's your fear, which would be your emotion, most likely, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
have that anxiety response. You're going to have a bit of adrenaline that's going
Yeah.
to linger. So if you can allow yourself a calm moment to set all that aside and get that quick flash, that fleeting, immediate information, it's okay if the
Mm-hmm.
other stuff comes rushing through. Just allow yourself for that, and then follow whatever you want to follow.
Yeah.
So why did you? I think you mentioned this earlier. Kaylin recently quit her job
Mm-hmm.
for someone else to start her own social media company. What propelled you to do that? Something was motivating you, and I don't think it was just dollars and cents.
Oh no, absolutely not. I mean, I was making enough. It was fine. I was happy there. I loved my coworkers. It was just something of like, I don't know. I would word it as maybe like feeling like it had run its course. Not even that situation, but just the routine, whatever it just felt like it had just, that's the only way I can describe it, is it just felt like it had run its course. And I knew what I wanted my next move to be, but I don't know, I just felt like, I don't know, and it took me like maybe 4 months of working towards this. It wasn't like I just woke up one day. So I just had to kind of keep reminding myself of something in me wants to move from A to B. And I
Mhm.
keep every day I had to wake up and just keep pushing through to the B. Now I'm at the B. But do you know what I mean? Because I knew that something wanted me to get here. Even though I would wake up days and be like, "Oh my gosh, am I really like I just had a 13-hour day." But you know what I mean? Like something was pushing me towards that.
Doesn't help you when I'm texting you and emailing you all the time because I'm so illiterate with all this. So
Oh
can
my
you
gosh.
recall that as something we just talked about with how your intuition comes through? Can you call
Okay,
it as a knowing, as a feeling,
actually,
as a
yes. I mean, without getting too like specific on the situation, but there was just a small situation that happened at my job, and I immediately knew that was it.
tell me
I
more.
I ended up staying with for another 5 months, but I remember I was sitting in like the reception area at the end of the day, and I was just talking to some of my coworkers about what had happened, and I was like getting emotional, and they were like, "No, no, no, it's okay." And I was like, "No, you guys don't." I remember I said, "I know you guys don't know me that well outside of work, but I'm like the moment I make a decision, that's it.
It's
That
because
is
you have
it."
the knowing. It's because you
And
have the knowing.
that's so funny. Like, and
Yeah.
it was, I remember trying to explain that to them, and they're like, "No, no, no, but like he didn't mean it, whatever." And I just said, "Guys, it's too late." Like that made up my mind instantly. And it took me, like I said, like 5 months to actually
Sure, to
actionably make the
execute it.
move.
Yeah. Your
But
intellect
like,
helps you execute
yeah,
it.
and in that moment, I knew what I had to do next. And there was some like back whatever. But I remember describing it to my coworkers. I was like, "I know you guys don't know this about me because you don't see me outside of here, but it don't try to talk me out of this." Like, I know it's one small
Right.
thing that happened, but my mind has been made. I don't know how else to, I mean, oh my gosh, that's actually crazy. That literally was yeah.
Well, good. So
Weird
now
how
you
that
have a
works.
recollection of what it feels like.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
grew up in a town with a lot of entrepreneurs that have had international success.
Mhm,
And I have the opportunity over the years to talk to them and ask them what they attribute to their success. And the two things I hear repeatedly is they were willing to take risks and they trusted
mhm.
their instincts. So, and it's also not just a female
Yes.
thing. We think of intuition as a women's intuition. Well, men can relate it to it as a
Yeah.
gut feeling, right? It's the same thing.
Mhm.
It's the same thing.
Because
Do you have
gut
any
feelings are
questions so
more
far?
manly.
Yeah, right. Do you have any questions so far, Kaylin?
No, I mean, I still can't get over the mind blowing of like realizing that my job situation. I mean, I just thought it was just, but like in that moment,
Mhm.
talking it out and just being like, "I don't know, guys, don't try to talk to me. I know what I'm gonna do. There's no talking me out of it."
Because
I
you
feel
have the
like
knowing.
that was it. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So I'm
And like you
sure
said,
that
not
other
being
people
able to
watching
explain
this,
it.
I'm sure other
Mhm.
people watching this can relate to that in some way, that they've
Yeah,
had
and I
just
think
that knowing. If you know you don't have to explain it, then you know it's your intuition. Learning
exactly.
that.
No, exactly. And I mean, I like because I mean, I've been thinking, just knowing that we were getting ready to do this, I'd kind of been stewing on intuition and decisions and whatever, and just like decisions that I made. And that is one that like I couldn't quite boil down. I mean,
Mhm.
everything boils down to intuition, but talking it out just now, being able to boil it down to that exact moment that I
At
couldn't
that
recall
moment.
until right now. But I'm
Good.
like, oh my God. And that was it. And what you said about not being able to describe it, and that was what that was.
And I'm sure if you look back at other decisions in the past, you will find a
Oh,
similar thing.
absolutely.
So I would
Yeah.
encourage everyone to do that as well. So in the future, when you have a decision to make and it's not instantaneous, or even if you have a few minutes to ponder this, think about the decision, break it down into a yes or no question, ask yourself that question in a yes or no way, get that flash of intuition, the feeling, the yes or no here in your solar plexus or all over. Remember, it'll feel open, calm, the knowing, the like movement in those areas. Or if it's a no, it'll feel a tightness, a constriction, maybe like pressure kind of thing in these
Hmm.
areas, or all around. Get that information from your intuition and then apply it. And then
Yeah.
it's okay if your emotion or intellect come flying in. Now, one thing I wanted to mention, if you're really
Yeah.
having a hard time understanding what to do, really getting all that information out of the way, write it down. Write down what you want and what you don't want. Write down what's coming through in terms of your emotion, and write down what you think you should or shouldn't do, or the needs you're trying to get the needs you're trying to meet in this decision and what you're worried about not meeting. Write that down, get it out so you can see it in front of you. So then you might be more easier to put it aside.
Gotcha. Because you've cleared
identified. Exactly. Exactly. So there are some ways that our intuition can come through a little more naturally, because it can come through instantaneously. And I would imagine it does for everybody more than they've realized. So I encourage everyone to pay a little more attention to that.
Yes. I mean, something I keep saying about intuition every time you and I talk about it is, as someone who's like 101 on intuition at this stage in my life, knowing that like the second you and I talked, even just you brought it to my attention, essentially, I started listening to it. And it's like I said, it's, 5 months ago when I made that job decision, I didn't know what intuition, I mean, we'll say I didn't know what intuition was, but I felt it, and I felt it so clearly. But now in decisions I've made since, because I'm aware of it, I'm able to listen to it, because I'm not just brushing it off as, a feeling I'm having.
Right.
And it gives you a sort of at least for me, it's given me a confidence in those decisions.
Exactly.
I don't have to explain it. It's just doesn't feel right for me, or whatever that is,
to make them more in the future. So
exactly.
The more we always hear about being in the moment and the need to be more present. Well, the more we're in the moment and more present, the more we can hear our intuition, the more we can tune out that white noise, and the more automatic it can be, and the more we'll trust it. So ways you can do that are doing grounding exercises, getting your feet on the ground, being in nature, listening to music that grounds you, drinking water. Water calms our center of nervous system. So drinking water keeps you calmer and more centered, so you can hear your information. Foods, we know, we all hear about food allergies, and we know food sensitivities more and more about that these days. But if your body's in distress, you're not going to be able to hear your information quite as clearly. Creating some moments of peace and serenity helps you stay in a more grounded space, and just trusting it more. Literally, the more we trust it.
And being intentional about it. That's something I've had to.
Exactly. And think about this.
And it's not always something that you have to be intentional about, but sometimes.
But if you need,
I found that you do. Yeah.
Yeah. If you have a decision and you're just not sure what to do, it's there for you. But I would love for everyone to look at how much it's already happening automatically for you, because chances are it does, and you just don't pay attention.
Absolutely.
When I heard about what the Navy had been doing in the past, it made sense to me, because when the importance of the more present you are, the more your intuition comes through. Because think about these men and women in these high adrenaline situations, life or death, go, noise everywhere. How is it that they are able to tap into their intuition at that moment? Some of it's training to be present, but because they're completely present in that moment, they're totally focused with all their senses on what's happening to them at that moment. They're not thinking about what just happened or what may happen. They can't afford to. They're trained to think about just what's in front of them. That's why they can get that information so clearly and so quickly.
Yeah.
So
you need to get one of them.
You
need to get one of them on the show. Have someone on my end of the spectrum, and then someone who's like mastered it to a point of like life or death.
Well, actually, I have a client who is in the military, so I might see if she wants to do that one of these days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
So do you have any questions before we wrap up this intro to introduction?
I feel like no. I feel like I've kind of just asked a few throughout, but I mean, like literally when you speak, I'm like a little sponge about it. Like I said about like the first time we talked about intuition, from that day on, it has just been just like a switch that has flipped. And I hope that people watching kind of get that, like just waking up to intuition period has been life-changing.
Sometimes awareness is all you need, right?
Yes, absolutely. Like I was not aware.
Oh, the sun is coming through my window there. Sorry. Well, thank you so much for your time. And I want to
thank you for having me.
Invite everyone to, question, comment on this, go to woonews.tv, fill out the forms, ask questions. If there's topics you'd like to hear about, love to have your feedback on this as well. But if there's topics you want to hear about in the future, we'd love to take those into consideration too. So thank you, Kaylin, for joining me and joining us and sharing your stories.
Thank you so much.
And helping me show everyone a little bit more about intuition.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll see you all soon.